I'd like to welcome you to this spring's Tim and Sharon Ubben Lectureship, and it is indeed a pleasure for me to introduce to you this evening Jim Alling, a 1983 graduate of DePauw University, who is currently the president of Starbucks Coffee US. Jim was graduated from DePauw with honors in economics and Spanish. He earned a master's degree in international management from the American Graduate School of International Management. He joined Starbucks after a lengthy career with Nestle USA. At Nestle, he was vice president and general manager of several divisions, and then he joined Starbucks in September 1997 as a senior vice president and was promoted to president in October 2004. I won't embarrass you by asking if there's anyone in this room who's never had a cup of Starbucks coffee, but I bet that's true. We all know Starbucks coffee. They have over 80,000 employees with annual sales of over $5 billion, coming primarily from 6,300 retail stores. Outside his work, I discovered this afternoon that Jim's greatest interests are his family, his wife and 3 sons. He's not only president of Starbucks, he is an excellent coach of his sons' soccer teams, and he is an avid runner. Mr. Alling also serves on the board of directors for Jumpstart, a Boston-based nonprofit organization that organizes college students who help prepare preschool children for school through literacy development. With programs in 18 states, Jumpstart is one of Starbucks' national nonprofit partners. Please join me in welcoming Jim Alling as he talks about growing big and staying small at Starbucks. Jim?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you guys see me okay if I come around? I'm not much of a podium guy. So first of all, I got to tell you, it is surreal to be back here and with you. It is just amazing. I feel like I should be sitting somewhere in the back row, and for you guys in the back row, I know you're going to skip out if I'm not very good. So I actually have got some guards. If you go out, you're going to get nailed. So stick with me. For the next probably 30, 35 minutes, I just want to share some stories, some things about Starbucks, and then leave probably, 20, 25 minutes for questions, answers, whatever's on your minds. And I will tell you though, coming back today, I felt like I was transported in time. It was just, you got a beautiful spring day. I'm assuming it's been this way all winter. I don't know, but it was just, I came onto campus and the first thing I saw were just people out everywhere. And the next thing I saw was a guy swinging a golf club. And I mean, not taking just a little swing. Now, we did not do this. We played Frisbee golf when I was on campus. So I see some guy hauling off in my direction as I'm coming past East College. And I see a big yellow thing he's getting ready to hit. And I'm thinking, this guy is going to nail me with a frickin' 7-iron. So he hauls off, and it's tearing at me. I mean, it's a big swing. And then I see it losing trajectory, and I saw it was a tennis ball. I said, this is perfect. Why didn't we think of this? You guys are so smart today. But I saw people out. The other thing, Gary Lemon and I were walking past the SAE house, which was my old fraternity. I see some of the brothers, and I see you guys wearing ties. That's a big step up. I saw him. I said, wow. That was pretty amazing, but there they were, and it's a beautiful sunny day. They have got the furniture, which we used to do, out on the front yard. I think it was the same furniture we had, by the way. It's looking pretty beat up, and they've got the speakers playing music, and I thought, man, this is perfect. I am 18 to 22 again, and I realized this place is timeless. There's such a feel. Then I looked in the mirror, and I said, I am not 18 to 22 anymore. And I had people call me, oh, yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Alling. I'm like, okay, Grandpa here, Social Security discount time. But it just struck me as I was on the campus that there was one message I really wanted to share with the students, and that is to really take advantage of everything that DePauw has to offer. And you do have something that maybe you recognize, maybe you don't, but there is a special feel. There is a community feel on this campus. And it's different. Trust me, it is different than other places. I'm sure you've been to other campuses. And when I'm saying take advantage of all that's here, I'm talking about all the educational opportunities. I'm not talking about just the stuff you're going to learn in the classroom, which is you've got great faculty, great curriculum, great things. But I will also tell you GPA is overrated. You've got to get the learning that's available throughout campus. I guarantee you those guys that were hitting the golf balls at me or the tennis balls at me, they were learning something about each other. I don't know exactly what, but they were having a good time. They were interacting. And you'll have opportunities. Some of the best learnings I had here were things in my fraternity house, when I rode Little 5, when I met new people in my classrooms. You are surrounded by very interesting, very educated people with different backgrounds from you. They come from different places. And don't miss this opportunity. You've got 4 great years. In some cases, I'm sure you'll stretch it to 5 or 6, but let's hope you stay on the 4-year plan. But you have a tremendous opportunity to get to know people. And I will tell you, what you will learn is considered emotional intelligence. And EQ ranks up there in importance with IQ as far as how successful you'll be. DePauw will help you open doors. But what you do once you're inside those doors has a lot to do with what you did as you experienced DePauw. So I stand before you as someone who, I'm not going to claim I was the perfect student or somebody who experienced everything at DePauw. But what I did experience, I guarantee you set me up better for success in my future. So I really hope you enjoy your experience. I hope you fully experience everything that DePauw has to offer. And I hope you come back before it's been 23 years, because that's how long it took me to get back. And this place is really cool. So with that, I kind of wanted to shift gears and talk about, I guess, what I consider to be the biggest challenge facing the company I'm with now, Starbucks. And you would think with a company growing that fast, one of the biggest challenges is figuring out how you can continue to grow faster, where the new place is going to be. But I will tell you the biggest challenge we feel we have is not the growing big part, but it's growing big and staying small. How do you stay small? How do you stay true to your roots? How many people, just out of curiosity, had a chance to read some articles about Starbucks recently in the headlines about an email that was leaked out? Some of you did, some of you didn't. But there was an article that went out, and in the article it was a memo from our chairman. It was sent to myself and a few others. And it was a memo that challenged us to stay true to our core, stay true to our roots. How do we do that? How do we stay small as we're getting big? And it really is a challenge. And as I think about staying small and getting big, I think about when we're doing it right and when we're doing it wrong. And as you're successful, there's always a challenge. And the challenge is to go back and to recognize your success is not an entitlement, and to go back and try to make yourself better. So as I define how are we getting big and staying small, when are we doing it at our best, I think about it through the eyes and ears of our customers. And I'm one of those people, I get to travel a lot. I cover the whole US, and I actually am one of those people you hate to sit next to on a plane, because I actually like to talk to people. I'll sit down and like, hey, how you doing? They're like, oh God, this is going to be a long one. But I'll chat people up, and they'll try to put their Bose noise cancellation headphones on, and I'll pull it out. Hey, how you doing? But as I talk to people, invariably it'll come up, hey, where do you work? And I'll mention that I work with Starbucks, and they'll say, wow, Starbucks. And then I get a reaction. It's not always a positive reaction, but I get a reaction. And they start asking me a lot of questions like, oh, can I open a franchise? And why in God's name do you call a small, a tall, and a grande? It's like, hey, man, why can't you just call it what it is? And we'll get into that conversation. And then they'll talk about how big we are. Say, man, you've got a store on every corner in Manhattan. You are so big. It feels like you guys are just expanding so much. You're taking over the world. And I think, you've read our business plan. Yes, but no, and they'll go into that. And then after they talk about it, though, after they've talked about how big we're getting, the next thing they'll say, literally in the next breath, they'll say, my store is your best store. My store is your best store. And when I hear them say my store, What I recognize is that's the secret to the success we've had to date. We started with one store in Seattle, and now we have over 13,000 stores across the globe in 40 countries. And as we built on those My Store experiences, we try to make it right for someone. And as we make it right for that person, they recommend it to a friend. Starbucks spends more on training the people that work in our stores than we do on advertising. Our brand success was built on word of mouth. It was built on people having a good experience that made them want to come back the next day. It was a good enough experience that maybe they wanted to recommend it to a friend or a family member. And as they did that, they did it at My Store. So when Starbucks is small, we are My Store. We are a local coffee house that just happens to have a big name endorsing it. When we've gotten too big and we've lost that My Store community feeling, we become this big, faceless corporate chain. So the challenge is, how do you stay small? How do you stay true to your roots? And I will tell you, at the core of Starbucks, and every company should know what's at their core, there are two things. It's coffee and it's people. Those are the two things at the core of Starbucks. And if you really press me to say you got to pick one, I will tell you we are in the people business, serving coffee. And we talk about this a lot as a company. We talk about the challenge of staying true to this core of coffee and people and how to really take care of our people. And I think probably the best way to relate this to you is actually to take you with me and kind of share some experiences I had at an executive retreat I went to. It was about 2.5, 3 years ago now. And this retreat was put on as our new CEO was coming in. He was newer to the company. And our chairman and founder, Howard Schultz, said, hey, we ought to go off-site, just the top 10 officers of the company, go off-site and really start our new CEO, Jim Donald's job right. And we'll do this and we'll just connect and we'll share stories and we'll talk about staying true to our core. So we didn't go to any fancy executive retreat and play golf or anything. We actually went to a campground. And it was a nice campground. We did, we had bunk beds and stuff, and I got top bunk. But so we go off to this campground, and we went into the main cabin to start this thing off. And again, you got Howard Schultz, the founder of the company, his business partner, a guy named Dave Olson, when we founded the company. And then you've got the 10 most senior officers in the company. And then you've also got people that have been with the company for a number of years. And they were some of the early partners. And many of them are partners, by the way, is what we call our baristas, our employees. We all call each other that. So we had some of the baristas from the early days who are now store managers, some people from accounting, just a variety of people. And we were all coming together to share stories and talk about staying true to our core, which allows us to get big while staying small. And as we came into this room, well, the first thing we did is we had a coffee tasting. And at Starbucks, we start our meetings with coffee tastings and we share customer letters. That's just what we do. Again, coffee and people at the core. So we had a coffee tasting, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But after we did the coffee tasting, we actually looked on, the main cabin. We'd posted up our mission statement, our guiding principles, and our core purpose, the things that are central to us, the things at the tough times. And we've got, by the way, our guiding principles, are listed on our business cards. On the back of all the Starbucks partners' business cards, you'll see the guiding principles. And when it's tough times, when we're trying to make a decision, we refer back to those. When it's good times, we refer to those. Those are our true north that we look to. And we went through these guiding principles and the core purpose, and we said, do we all agree with these? Do they still resonate? Do they still make sense? And the answer resoundingly was yes. These things still make sense. These things still make us proud. We still want these as our guiding principles and our core purpose. And then we talked about, okay, how do we stay true to this? And we shared stories. And as I mentioned, you had partners or employees that had been with Starbucks for a number of years. And as they shared their stories, there were some classic stories, but as they shared their stories, I noticed two traits in particular that all of these people shared in common. And they were very different personalities. But they had two personality traits they shared in common. And one of those traits was a sense of personal ownership. They literally felt that if they didn't do it, and they still felt this to this day, 15 years later, after the company had gone public, they felt that if they didn't do it, it might not get done. They felt that they had to do the right things, the little jobs, to make sure, at one point in time it meant meeting payroll. But now they still felt it was their job to help lead the company as an owner. And as they talked about this sense of personal ownership, I was reminded of a story, or I was reminded of the first day that I worked in company-operated retail. I was taking over the stores, and at this point in time, I think we had about 4,000, 5,000 stores in North America. And I was taking over the stores for Starbucks as the head of the North American stores. And I called up a guy who was the first head of Starbucks stores, a gentleman named Howard Behar. And I asked Howard, I said, hey, can you just spend some time with me and share with me how you do it? Share with me, how you used to run the stores. And he took me out, and we were running stores from dark 100 till the end of the day. We went into 17 different Starbucks stores. And as we did it, we just kind of went in and we'd go into a store and we'd talk to the people that were working in the store, and we kind of fidget around, go back into the car, and he was asking tons of questions along the way. And I was doing my best to answer the questions, and I felt it was a little bit like, they call them the comps now, I guess, but it was the final exams, like, man, he's nailing me. Okay, I think I might at least be able to get a C out of this one. So he's going through, asking me all the questions, and we're done for the day. We get to the car, and we're going our separate ways at the end of the day, and I stopped him, and I said, hey, Howard, I'm dying to know, how do you think I'm going to do? How do you think I'm going to do in this job heading up the stores? And he's kind of a gruff guy. He's a wonderful character, but kind of gruff. He goes, I'll tell you, kid. He says, I think you're going to do just fine. I said, wow, you like my answers to the questions that you asked? He goes, oh, God, no. He goes, oh, man, you got a lot to learn, kid. He goes, but here's the thing. He says, here's what I liked. The first store we went into, you stopped people and you asked them how they were doing, and you really listened to what they were saying. And I saw you writing down suggestions. And I saw you writing down, you got to do things with that. So the listening piece is important. He said, but what impressed me even more, he said, is the first store we went into, and every store after that, I noticed you reached down and picked up some trash. He said, you were picking up napkins and straws and kind of arranging things and just cleaning things up. And he says, I love that. He says, we are trash picker-uppers. He said, if you're too good to be picking up trash, you're probably too good to be working at Starbucks. Now, I know a lot of you just canceled sending your resumes to Starbucks, but I will tell you, it's that sense of personal ownership. And he shared with me a saying that's kind of stuck with me ever since. And the saying, I believe it's an old Hebrew saying, and I'll paraphrase it. The saying was, if not me, who? If not now, when? If I don't pick up this trash, who exactly is going to do it? And if I don't do it now, when's it going to happen? And that sense of personal ownership that he shared with me has stuck with me, and it really stuck with those original people that were at Starbucks. And it's with us every day when we're at our best. So that was one trait they shared in common. They were owners. The other thing that I noticed, every one of the people, as they were again sharing these stories at this retreat, they all were optimists. And if you think about it, I guess you got to be an optimist to go to work for a company whose core business proposition was to sell a cup of coffee for $3 when it's widely available for friggin' 25 cents. I mean, it's like, hello, I don't know if this one's going to work. But they were, they were vested, they were into it. It's like, hey, we can change the world, $3 at a time. And, and this group, though, they were very optimistic about their business, but I will tell you what they were most optimistic about was how they treated people. They had this sense that if they took better care of the people they work with, their partners, than anybody else in the industry thought was wise, that in return, those partners, those people that were working for them would want to excel well beyond any job description. They offered comprehensive health care to part-timers. They offered stock options in the form of a beanstalk program to part-timers. They gave them a stake in the company. And they really did believe that these people, if they were treated well, would want to create something special. They'd want to share it with the people who came to work with them. They trusted that people wanted to be part of something special. And they shared, as we were talking about this, one of the people there shared a saying that they had read. And it was that most jobs in the world today are too small for people's spirits. Most jobs in the world today are too small for people's spirits. And what they believed was they wanted to create jobs that were big enough, that would allow people to excel beyond any job description. So they tried to take good care of them, and they trusted that in return, they would take great care of the people that came in to see them. So that was that sense of ownership they had, or the sense of ownership, but also the sense of optimism about people. And I mentioned before, kind of to play through this sense of optimism and what can happen over time, because those two traits sound pretty good, right? Ownership and optimism. But as you get bigger, as you start to grow, you start to build things in that make you bigger, that maybe take away some of those central things. And I mentioned at the beginning we had a coffee tasting when we came into this main cabin. And I want to share more about that coffee tasting. And again, the guy who started it was one of the original founders of Starbucks, Dave Olson, and he put on one of the original green aprons for Starbucks. And there was a couple things we noticed about these aprons. And I don't know if anybody's seen the original Starbucks logo, but it's got the mermaid up here today. Well, the mermaid that was on this one was not politically correct. I mean, she's got it out there. I mean, she's got the fins up and pretty buxom. It's like, whoa, easy there, mermaid lady. Take it down a notch, you know. So we were all joking about the mermaid, going, whoa, that's something else. But there was something else that I noticed. I noticed that on the apron that I saw, there were pockets on the front of the apron, and I had not seen pockets on aprons since I'd been at Starbucks. And I remember thinking, pockets, what a great idea. Why would we not have pockets? You can put your keys in there, your change, or whatever. Why in God's name did we take away the pockets? And so I asked the question, why'd we take away the pockets? And somebody who'd been around longer said, I think it was a little bit less costly, but the main reason given for taking the pockets away from all the baristas that worked in our stores was that people noticed that some of the baristas were actually, as they're working the register, their hands on the register were right by the pockets. And some of, not a lot, but some of the baristas were actually slipping money into the pockets. And so they said, well, let's take the temptation to steal away from people. Let's take away the pockets. And I got to tell you, that, as they said that explanation, it just hung there. It was like, how could we get to the point where we manage to the lowest common denominator? How could we get to the point where we want to take away these pockets so that people wouldn't steal? This was a company that was founded on a belief that if you take better care of people, if you trust people, trust their judgment, they'll create something great. They created all these My Stores. And then, in an effort to save a little money or to not let people steal, somebody made a decision with every good intention to take these pockets away. And it just hung there in the air. With the founders of the company, that explanation just hung there. It's like, wow, what have we become? And we moved on, as I mentioned, we talked about that one thing, but my brain works a little different. I got stuck on this. I'm like, so how did we lose the pockets? I mean, I know we physically cut them off or whatever, so I get how they disappeared. But I was like, how did we get there? And the first thing I thought was, how dumb do we think these crooks really are? I mean, for God's sakes. Do we think they're going to go like this? There's no pocket there, and they're going to go, I'm trapped. Oh, God, take me away. I'm captured. You got me, haul me off. For God's sakes, they have other pockets in their pants. I mean, what are we thinking? So that was one thing that struck me. The other thing that really struck me, though, was this sends a message that we don't trust anyone. This sends a message that we think we're better off managing to the crooks than we are believing in people. And, at that point in time, I thought, boy, that's too bad. I don't think I would have made that decision. And then I said, well, you bonehead. To myself, you bonehead. I said, you're the friggin' president of the U.S. I think you can get a few pockets and sew them on and, put the pockets back. And so I'm not a big idea guy, but for me, this was a big idea. People, pockets are good. Pockets are good. Pick up trash, pockets are good. So it was like, okay, I got it. So we literally announced this to all of our Starbucks partners. And it's not the pockets that they're so excited about when they hear the pockets came back. It was that we believed in them. that we were not going to manage to the lowest common denominator, that we trusted them, that we trusted that the good that the people we can believe in will more than outweigh the thieves that are in our midst. And there will always be thieves in our midst, but you manage to the good. And we believe the same thing for our customers. You know, if you look at how we treat our customers, we want to tell our partners in the stores that we trust your judgment. We have a philosophy that is just say yes. And what we mean by just say yes is do what you think is right to make it right for the customer. Use your best judgment to get it so that when they leave that store, they feel better than they felt when they came in. And so we give them the latitude to just say yes, to use their best judgment. And as they do that, they can create some great experiences. And they can create some opportunities where people feel like, hey, they really listened to me. I want to keep coming back to that store. I think that's going to be my store because they really listen to me. They take care of me. I seem to matter to them. And I'll share another story about really, just saying yes and making it right for our customers and then what that can mean. And this happened at a drive-through store in Riverside, California. And it was a busy Friday morning, and a lot of people say, boy, you can't have much of an experience at a drive-through. I've heard this question a lot of times. Trust me, you can have a great experience at a drive-through store. It doesn't have to feel like this big fast food, crank them out thing. And in this particular instance, there were 8 cars lined up at the drive-through on a busy Friday morning, and the front car was a pickup truck, and they'd ordered, I think they ordered a full mocha. It was like a regular mocha. And we had made a non-fat, we are so high maintenance on our orders, I can't even remember. So full fat, non-fat, whatever, quad grande, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, whatever they had requested, I think they requested a regular mocha, and we made a non-fat mocha. And we handed it through the window. The barista there said, here's your mocha, sir. And he goes, oh, I wanted a non-fat mocha. And she went, oh, God, I'm sorry, my bad. Let me get this right. So she took about a minute, remade the drink, handed it through the window and said, you know what, no charge today, it's on me. She was just saying yes, making it right. And he said, well, that is so nice of you. I really appreciate that. He said, those people behind me, those 2 people behind me were waiting for a while. What are they getting? I'll just pay for their drink since you picked up mine. And she goes, oh, that's so nice. And she told him whatever it was, and he paid for the drink. So the car pulls up, and they go to hand the drinks out, and they go, no charge today. They go, no charge? What is it, Super Friday? What's going on? And they said, no, that guy in the blue pickup truck paid for your drinks. And they go, oh, that is so nice. What are they getting behind us? And so they get the drinks of the car behind them. They get the drinks of the car behind them. This goes on for 7 consecutive cars where they bought the drinks of the person behind them. Now, when I first heard this story, again, my mind doesn't work like everybody's. Must be that DePauw education. But when I first heard this story, 2 things popped into my mind. And the first one, I know some of you are thinking this, is what is up with the guy in the 8th car? What a stiff. He pulls up, gets a free drink, and goes, yeah, cool, man, what else you got? I'm out of here. Hey, screw those people behind me. I'm cruising. He just took it and ran. But, and actually I did ask the store manager, I said, what's up with the stiff in the 8th car? And she goes, well, actually, because there was more cars that were behind them, she goes, it was actually a high school student who comes in quite a bit for this grande frappuccino that she always gets. She has her exact change, and there's a car of 4 people behind her. So she looks in her rear view mirror, I guess. She looks up, looks in her rear view mirror, and just peels out. Just like, oh, I can't pay for this thing. It's like, I'm so sorry. So obviously that was one thing that popped through my head. But I'll tell you, the other thing that I started thinking about is, that must have felt really good. It must have felt really good to get that free drink. And then I started thinking more about it. I thought, I wonder if it felt even better when you bought the drink of the person behind you, when you paid it forward to that person behind you. And what I recognize, though, that all started with one simple act of kindness, one person just saying yes. And it created something that was different that day in the store. And when we do it right, when we're really small, when it's my store, not this big chain of stores, we create those little moments. We create a sense of gathering, a sense of community, a place where you see your friends. You have somebody who remembers your name. For a lot of the people we see, we are the first person they talk to in the morning. And they're not all happy They just want it and they want to get going. But when we do it right, we do create that sense of loyalty, that sense of belonging. And it isn't always just these gigantic acts, but we will also then get them involved. They'll want to become involved in things we're involved in. Starbucks last year alone contributed over 383,000 hours to volunteer programs in our local communities. And almost half of those hours were donated by customers who wanted to join in with us. So we had our people, but we also then had our customers joining in. And Starbucks then matched $1.5 million on top of that in matching grants for those efforts. And those are just things that create that sense of community, create that my store experience. And I want to finish my stories and kind of open it up for Q&A by sharing one more story, which is, I think, my favorite Starbucks story. And it's about a customer in Burbank, California, a guy named Jim Ebert. They called him Big Jim Ebert. And Jim was actually originally from Pittsburgh, not California for those of you who know it, but Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and moved out to Burbank. And his family was still back in Pittsburgh. And as Jim settled in, he got in an assisted living home that was very close walking distance to the store in Burbank. So he started coming into the store. And every morning, Jim would come in. He'd get the same latte and the same maple scone. He'd come in, get the latte and the maple scone. He'd spread his paper out. He'd wear his Steelers hat, and he'd read the paper. And after a while, after a number of years, he started to interact a little bit with the partners, the baristas in the store. Hey, you missed a spot over there, or hey, you better get on it, or man, my scone's stale today, or whatever. Not that we ever have stale scones, but he'd go through and he'd kind of interact a little bit, but it wasn't like he was the mayor of the joint. It wasn't like he knew everybody that came in. He more came in, read, and obviously was observing a little bit, doing a little bit of people watching. So he did this for about 4 years, just came in. Jim came in and the team got to know him. And after about 4 years, a week went by and Jim had not shown up. And the partners in the store actually called over to the assisted living home and they said, where is Jim okay? Where is he? And they said, well, no, he actually passed away. And, they were obviously upset by this and, didn't know his family. And they said, well, you know what? We need to help with the funeral arrangements. We'd love to bring coffee or muffins or something, just, to help. This was a nice guy. He's someone we got to know over time. So they were back at the store planning this when all of a sudden a group of people came into the store who they did not know. And this group of people had a big bouquet of flowers and some other things that I'll talk about. And they came up to the register, where we ring things in at the store, with this big bouquet of flowers, and they said, our father just passed away. His name is Jim Ebert. And we just wanted to come in here and give you these flowers. And we wanted you to know how much you meant to him in the last years in his life. What a difference you made to him. We would talk about you. We feel like we know you because he would talk about you in our phone conversations. We'd say, what'd you do today, Dad? And he'd talk about going into the store. And he'd talk about the people he met and the things he saw. And it was something that made him feel good. And they gave him the flowers. And then they gave him some other things. And this is as they were cleaning up his room, going through his possessions, they came across some things that he'd left in his bedroom. And it was stacks of Starbucks cups, like a stack of Starbucks cups, like 4 or 5 cups, and some pastry wrappers. And he cleaned the cups out and everything. And the cups had, we marked stuff. I don't know if you've seen the hieroglyphics on our cups, but we're writing stuff on our cups with these markers. And on some of the cups, like one of them just had a smiley face, and he'd save that. Another one said, good morning, Jim. Another one said, sorry about the Steelers, ha-ha, and he'd save that one. And they'd obviously put these little messages to him, and he'd taken the time to clean these out and save these. And for me, the one that really grips at me was he'd saved some pastry wrappers. And one of the pastry wrappers on the thing was scribbled, last maple scone, saved for Jim. Last maple scone, saved for Jim. Now, I like to believe our product quality is really good and everything, but I don't think he saved those cups and those wrappers because the scone's so great. He obviously saved those because they meant something to him. And they meant something to him because to those people, he mattered. I've heard a saying, to the world, you may be just one person, but to one person, you just may be the world. And I think about Jim Ebert, and I think about that team in that store, those partners. And they didn't know they were doing anything special with this guy. They were just being nice to him. They just treat him well, maybe having a little bit of fun with him. They had no idea the impact they made on him. But as they did that, they were helping us stay small. They were helping us be my store. They were doing things that literally mattered. It mattered to him, but it mattered to them. They felt that much better about their work. And as I close up my comments and then open it up for Q&A, what I wish for all of you students, what I really wish for you is that you find work that makes you feel good, that fills you up. I talked about most jobs in the world today are too small for people's spirits. Be in something that fills you up. Be in something that plays to your strengths. Be in something at the end of the day that inspires you. I will tell you, I am inspired. We've got some Starbucks partners here, and I see their faces. I've seen a lot of them grow up through the company to higher ranks of management. They create a lot of these stories. That team in Burbank, they inspire me. They are my heroes. I recognize if I'm doing my job well, I work for them. I am of service to them. My boss on paper is the CEO. The best way to please my boss and be of service to him is to recognize that my bosses are out in this audience, that I work for that Starbucks team out there. Guys, right on. You want to be in a job as you go out there that makes you feel inspired. It's not going to be perfect. Everything, it's not like every day I go in and I'm like, woo, I'm so inspired. This is the greatest day of my life. Some days suck. I mean, that's just the way, some days are tough. Sorry. You can't take my degree away, can you? Okay. Just checking. Sorry, off color. But I will tell you, those days when you're filled up, those days that inspire you, it makes a difference. It makes a difference for everyone you touch. And as you do that, you are doing work that really matters. And I wish all of you to not only enjoy your time here and fully embrace this special place and this special educational opportunities that are in and outside the classroom, but I wish all of you to get into something that fills you up because you are such bright people. And as you go to do work that fills you up, you'll be making a major difference for those you touch in the world. So thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming out tonight. And at this point in time, I'd love to just open it up for whatever's on your mind, whatever questions. So thank you. So I just noticed we have some microphones here as well. So if you want to come up and ask the questions, I don't think there's any in the back. I'm ready, man. Otter, good to see you. It's so cool. A bunch of my fraternity brothers who all look really good, guys. You don't look any older. Yeah, right, Otter. Yeah, you didn't put on 20 pounds. Don't worry. But anyway. To my bros, thanks for coming out, guys. It's so cool. One of them actually came out from Phoenix, Brother Jim, who bought those stereos that are still sitting in the front yard. I still can't believe that. So anyway, question, please.
Hi, and thank you very much for coming to speak to us today. As a faculty member in the Department of Economics and Management with Gary, it's nice to see alums like you and alums who are saying, hey, look for something that is your passion. Look for something that will make you feel good at the end of the day. So I have a serious question and then a not so serious question. I actually want to hear your coffee song that I've heard about. And
coffee song?
I've heard you have a coffee song.
Well, it's a Christmas song. Boy, really? Was that your serious question? I'm
might-
enjoying.
you
Boy,
might-
this is softball city.
You might want to
okay.
ask Dr. Bottoms about the serious side of me
Okay.
versus the
Okay.
funny side.
I will. Okay, so I'm not ducking that. I'll come back to it.
Okay. And my serious question
Okay.
is about your diversity initiative in New Orleans and exactly what is it that Starbucks is doing. I just want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, we are still, we have donated $5 million to the city of New Orleans and some of the outer cities as well that were hit so hard by Hurricane Katrina. And what we have done then is worked with our partners. By partners, again, I'm talking about our employees that were in those impacted areas. And we're saying, how can we best give back to the community? And one thing we actually wanted to do first was get our stores open. People were saying, we really want your stores. We want to be able to have a sense of community. We feel like a lot's been torn apart. So we've gone back wherever we could and reopened stores, recreated jobs for people. The other thing, though, with the $5 million, we are picking specific projects to work with. I know we've talked with Habitat. I know we've talked with other groups. I know there's also been conversations with Brad Pitt over time, because he's been so active there. So I don't know all the specific things we've done, but we're actually letting our local team there in New Orleans call the ball on what they think is most appropriate for the $5 million.
Thank you.
So you ready for the series? Okay, so I got to give a little background. I can't just, this is, how you, yeah, you do know people. I'm going to figure out who you know. Long story goes to this. I got to just jump right to the short portion of the long story. I was at a conference, a big Starbucks conference in Las Vegas. And at the time, it was the biggest, this is going back about 5 years ago, it was the biggest Starbucks conference that we'd had. And we were in Vegas, and there were about 2,000 people in the audience. So big, and this Starbucks crowd, man, they are rowdy. This is a pretty caffeinated group, right? So they're ready to go. So I was there, and I thought, this is it, man. This is my Vegas moment. I am here in Vegas. I am going to do Elvis. Now, what you don't know is this was the first time I'd addressed this group. They didn't know who I'd been working in food service and other stuff, so I was the new head of North American stores, and they're thinking, oh boy, here comes another button-down dude. So I get up there, and I said, you know what? I want to be able to tell my grandkids I did Elvis in Vegas. And this is the biggest audience I'll ever have. So I said, so I'm going for it. So I did this Elvis impersonation, which, by the way, I know I can't sing, but they play along really well, and they make me feel really good. So I did this Elvis thing, and do you guys want to hear it? It's not good. It is. I will just say right now, I know it's not good. Our fraternity used to go out and sing, and they'd make me go in the back row and lip it. It's like, don't you dare try and get a chord out. Just lip the words, lip the words. So here we go. Hang on, I got to get, hell on. Here we go. Wise man say, only fool rush in. You know they do, baby. But I can't help falling in love with you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Greencastle. Good night, Greencastle. There will be no encores. Look at them head for the exits. Get me out of here. Now for my next number. All right, I'm going to find out who told you. So yes. Well, that was very distinguished. You can see I've moved along in my 23 years. Really distinguished myself. I'm afraid to ask for the next question. Yes, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Liz Stannard. I'm a freshman management fellow. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for being one of those entertaining speeches I think we've had at DePauw in a long time. My question is, Starbucks is known worldwide for being environmentally friendly, and I guess I'm wondering, has it panned out? Are you guys still investing in spending time and money in being environmentally friendly?
Oh, that's a long journey. The investment, big companies and small companies have to recognize our environmental footprint, what we're doing. And it's in the stores you build, and we become a lot smarter. We have a corporate social responsibility group that helps us and really keeps us up on the cutting edge of environmental issues. But I mean, it starts at origin and works its way all the way back into the type of electricity we use in the US, the types of light bulbs you have, your water usage. We cannot get people to consume their coffee out of cups. We offer cups in our stores that are porcelain cups, but people want the portability of paper cups. So knowing that, and knowing we can't change the behavior of all these people, we've come up with a post-consumer fiber, the only post-consumer fiber cup, or at least the first post-consumer fiber cup that was offered in the industry. And it's 10% post-consumer fiber. And we would do more, but it would turn into, literally, you'd be pouring coffee into a napkin, and then you'd have a real mess. So it's as durable as it can be. But those are things that we recognize we have to do. Not just for PR, but it's our responsibility. And we do as much education. We do a lot of composting. We do a lot of recycling. And at the end of the day, by doing those things, you actually save money. We've saved money on our cups. We've saved money on our utility bills. We have less trash to haul because we're doing so much recycling. So the smartest companies start recognizing they want to be a good neighbor. They want to be good to their environment. They want to be good to their communities. But they also recognize is by doing good, you also enable yourself to do well financially. And that's what we found. So it's a journey. I don't want to pretend that we're there. We've got a ways to go. And I think there's a lot of our fellow companies in the Fortune 500 and beyond who have the same challenge. So thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, I'll be a little short here. My name is Erin McConnell. I'm a 2004 graduate of DePauw and the Management Fellows Program and work in the admissions office.
Okay.
I would like to know, you talked a little about people and coffee, but you didn't talk about all the other stuff that we see in your stores, which seem to be a really important part of what you're doing, the music, the books, all that. And I know I read online this week about your new venture with the, I believe, the Hear Music.
Hear
correct?
Music, yeah.
Right. So on the outside, I think a lot of those things just look big. You're adding more things, you're adding more to your stores, you're adding more products. So how does all of that fit into this idea of also being small and fit into the mission statement for your company?
It's a really good question, one we still struggle with. I won't tell you we have all the answers. And one thing that any good company should be willing to do is not only question itself and say, are we staying true to our mission? Are we staying true to our core? But you also then are willing to say when you're wrong. And you admit it and you say, hey, we launched a product that's not very good and we ought to take it out. The music initiatives and the entertainment initiatives are when we're at our best. We have a relationship. Our baristas have relationships. Again, they know most of our customers' names. They know their drinks. And if they're excited about something, whether it's a new CD, a new type of food, a new drink, they really do want to introduce them. And what we've heard from our customers is they like to hear new things from us. They like to be introduced to new favorite things. The way we got into music originally was people heard the music overhead in our stores and they said, wow, that's cool, can I buy it? And we were like, well, that's not a bad idea. So we started to do that. So it's always been in our coffee house. We've always had music there. As we continue to expand, one thing we're recognizing is the things that have been most widely embraced have been things that are unique to our customers. Some of the exclusive offerings. The Ray Charles offering won 8 Grammys from a company, again, we're a coffee and people company, but within that coffee house, if you offer something that fits, people will embrace it. But we have to continue to test, are things relevant for the customers? And at the end of the day, if our frontline partners and our customers don't think something's a good idea, it's not going to stay in there. Right now, they still have a lot of interest, both the customers and the partners.
Can I follow up?
Yeah, please.
I'm just wondering because it's Hear Music, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, it's a recording label, not...
It's our music label. So we bought a company called Hear Music, and so Starbucks has owned Hear Music for the last 8 years, I believe. And okay, I'm sorry.
So I guess I'm just wondering why something which, to someone who admittedly I know nothing about recording labels, any of that, it does seem like kind of a big venture versus I know I worked in a Hallmark all through high school, and they had these partnerships with where they would bring in a CD. So I'm just wondering kind of the larger scale recording label versus just maybe a partnership where you would have special CD sales or special times when you would sell these CDs.
I think there's a natural tendency, I'm going to get to your direct question, but there's a natural tendency to think big is bad. And I think even the way I laid it out, it's like the best way to be small, or the best way to get big is to be small. But there are times where being big, having influence, the ability to get better purchase prices, the ability to have a more positive impact at origin, happens because you can be big and you have more clout. And what we found is by being big and working with recording studios, and Hear Music is actually partnering with a recording studio, it's going to give us a chance to bring music to the marketplace that otherwise is trapped. There's a certain formula now that record labels adhere to, and for the most part, there's only certain types of music coming out. And what we've become is almost an alternate distribution channel for some music. And if we can continue to make relevant music, it's something that's actually quite small. It's quite entrepreneurial in its nature. So if it sounds like a rationalization, maybe it is. But as we talk about it with our partners, they get excited about it. We just are putting a CD in our stores that's 15 recordings of baristas. Not me, by the way, so you're okay. You can buy this thing. But it's baristas that cut tracks, and we decided, hey, let's offer this. It's called Off the Clock, and it's all baristas and store managers performing as a group. And that's something that really, again, shows our partners, hey, we listen to them, we care about them. So,
Thank you.
thanks. Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for coming out.
Hey, this is great.
Yeah, I was just reading this article online on Oxfam. It was actually published in October of 2006, so it's a little outdated. But it reads, if you don't mind if I read it,
Sure.
that Starbucks opposes Ethiopia's plan to trademark specialty coffee names that could bring farmers an estimated $88 million annually. And I was wondering if you could update I'm sorry, did that check out? Could you hear me? Okay.
I did. I don't know if everybody else did.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering if you could update on that. Is Starbucks
Absolutely.
still opposing Ethiopia's plan to trademark these specialty coffees?
Hey, it's a great question. Thank you for asking it. What I will tell you is there's always more than what you'll see in press releases and headlines. And I guess you guys, you guys all better moonwalk right out of that one. You want to know the full story. And what I want to share is we have worked closely with our Ethiopian farmers, our partners, for a number of years. We have a support center there to help them with sustainable growing practices. We have economic transparency. We pay way above the market price. But we did not see their initial foray into trademarking, which was actually the NGO Oxfam was the one who was saying, hey, this is something you ought to do. This will get a lot of publicity. It will get things going. We didn't see this actually as the best way to help the farmers, especially the farmers that we were going to be working with. So we entered into deeper discussion with our farmers. We've doubled our purchase commitments with our Ethiopian farmers. We've met with the Ethiopian government. And Oxfam is still saying, yeah, but there's other things you could do. And what I will tell you is this story's not done. So we know how much more we do than others in Ethiopia, but we also know there's still some needs that we're talking to, again, the farmers, the government, and if necessary, we can bring Oxfam back into the conversation, but they're kind of a third party. What I will tell you is the trademarking itself, we don't get to make those decisions. There's U.S. law, and that's something that if they want to go into that.
So Starbucks is not blocking the trademark?
Oh, we're not blocking. Yeah, it's not ours to block. We don't determine trademark law in the U.S., but we did have some recommendations for the growers and for the government. But Oxfam has other recommendations. You know what? The only way to get to the best, if we get to the best place for the growers and for the country of Ethiopia and for Starbucks, we'll get there by having the right conversations. And it's in open forums like this. And our intent is to continue to do what we've always done, which is to be a great partner. Because if you're a great partner to the people you're working with, the people you're buying from, they'll want to continue to come and do business with you as well, which then gives us a sustainable business. So, and there's quite a bit more complexity under that, but that's the highest level update that we have. So, thank you. Thanks for asking the question. Oh, God. You gotta know this guy. I was at something else and Ross just grilled me. Okay, anybody else have a question? He's too tough. All right, go ahead, bury me.
Jim, I asked you earlier today about Ethiopia as well, and at that time you said that Starbucks was paying a premium of about $1.20 per pound for coffee.
We paid over $1.20 per pound.
Right, and I actually just saw this article from the Seattle Times where it said that.
Yeah, please. No, you're. Boy, this is a wired world, isn't it? No, please. That's great.
Dr. Lemon said to be prepared, so here I am.
Yeah.
It says that growers in Faro in the Sidama region receive about 75 cents a pound for their coffee. Starbucks has sold the processed product for as much as $13 per half pound, and that was March 6th from the Seattle Times. So can you explain that price disparity?
We pay over, I believe it's over $1.40. You may be able to look this one up for me, Ross, but I think our average price is, I know it's north of $1.30 that we pay in. Now, within that, you have people who help them bring the product to market, cooperatives and others. So what ultimately the cooperative gets a chunk. There's other distribution fees in there that the growers pay. So that is their net take after we've paid our premium, which is, again, above the market price. So that's the discrepancy. It's not, we don't pay directly to the grower. We go to who the grower's broker is and then work with them. And that's how we've done business there. So. And I can give you a more thorough answer as well. In other words, we've got a whole coffee department that really is deep in this area. But no, I don't mean to sound dismissive. It's something worth going deeper into. I mean, these are important topics to talk about. These, for us, we want these countries to have a sustainable source of income. We want to have, sustainable growing practices. We want to have economic transparency. We want to have health systems in place as they're doing this. And if we do those things, it sets us up. It sets us up for more future success, but it also sets up the growers and the other people whose lives are touched by coffee. So it's a great question, but that's the net is just some of the costs in between. So we pay the premium, but then there are some costs netted out.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. And everybody, thank you so much. It was really fun to be back. Thank you.
Actually, before I make one closing announcement, which I'm sure you'll be pleased with, I do have one question I wanted to ask you, so I'll ask the last one. Given all that we've been through around here in the past 3 weeks and the discussion we had this afternoon, did I understand you to say that the press doesn't always get it right?
I don't believe they do.
Yeah, that's the first question. The second question is...
That's it. How do you disagree with the president, for God's sake? No, I'm with you.
All of us enjoyed your Elvis impersonation. And I would remind our students who are just getting introduced to DePauw, if you are a first-year student or a second-year student, you've touched part of the Indiana tradition none of us were aware of until Ken Bodie came, and he has reminded several of us that there are more Elvis impersonators in Indiana than any other state.
There you go. I'm a creature of my hat.
So you've remained true to your roots. And the most important thing I want to say is all of you are invited to, you've mentioned coffee tastings. There is a Starbucks coffee tasting in the atrium of Julian immediately following our meeting, which is dismissed. I would just like to say again, Jim, thank you for coming.
Thank you.